G'day everyone, this is part 2 of Tom Brady is one of the toughest players to ever play in the NFL. This isn't a video on Tom Brady's mental toughness, it's about how physically tough he is. Although the mental toughness part does play a huge role in it as well, but I'm focusing more on the big hits that Brady took, and then after getting hit, he just gets up as if nothing happened. Remember when Brady was hit by the Buffalo Bills cornerback Nate Clements? It was the 2001 season. Brady is scrambling and making a run for it. He's trying to get as much yards as possible. Out of nowhere, the Bills cornerback Nate Clements steamrolls him. His helmet goes flying, Brady is flattened, and it was a massive hit. But Brady just gets up, starts clapping and jumping around as if it's Christmas morning. The commentators and everyone else, including myself, is completely shook. Listen to the commentators here. Listen to how scary they thought it was. I think that was a big hit. If your heart wasn't in your mouth after that hit, you're just kidding yourself. I actually thought Nate had decapitated Brady. I was scared for his life. The only thing more shocking than that hit was Brady getting up as if it was nothing. Nothing had happened. Look at that. Mike Compton in the 77 jersey comes running over to see if Brady's okay. Brady's like, "Get off me, Mike. It was nothing." But you know what the toughest thing was? His helmet goes flying, but he's still holding on to the ball. He doesn't fumble. Look at it again. Holds on to the ball, and if you think this hit was a one-off, listen to Michael Strahan talk about how many times they hit Brady, and more impressively, how Brady reacted.
You did try to take Brady out.
No, we just tried to win the game. We were hitting him so often and so fast from the beginning of that game. We're looking around like, okay, they're tricking us. Like, they're tricking us. This is not, maybe they're setting us up so we can rush so fast and they'll throw a screen over our head or something. But then we realized once he was cursing out the line, this is real. He's not cursing these guys out for nothing. He's kind of pissed that we're getting to him.
That's a big advantage for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because now all of a sudden you're starting to see cracks in the armor with the undefeated team. And
yeah, but one thing about him as opposed to a lot of other quarterbacks, because one thing, when it's no better feeling as an athlete when you know you're dominating a team or some guy so much that you can look in his eye and you can tell he's like, I don't want to be here. And Brady never had that look. Some of his guys did.
Linemen did.
But he never had that look. And that's the one thing I respect about him. This guy, he's a competitor, man. And as pretty as he is, as beautiful as his family is, his pretty wife, quarterback get all the pretty women. He is a fierce competitor. And I think we all walked out of that game as winners, of course, but with a lot more respect for him in that aspect.
Surely you're one tough MFer if you've got the opposing side's defense giving you respect and seeing how tough you are. Have a listen to Justin Tuck.
Michael Strahan had an interesting answer to me when we were talking about Tom Brady's toughness.
Yeah.
When you played them in the Super Bowl, Strahan said, I don't care what anybody says about Brady. We beat the hell out of him.
Absolutely.
And he did not complain once. He complained to his lineman about blocking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But he never said anything. Strahan said, we hit him with everything we had.
Yeah.
We wanted to let him know we're coming and we're going to be right back and try to get into his head. But he said, I have so much respect. You were there putting a beating on him.
The sentiment is the same, man. I think it's funny because, Boston fans hate me because of the Tom Brady thing. They always, like, if they ever see a picture of me sacking Tom in the Super Bowl, whatever, it's like, he hates Tom. He's a Tom hater, whatever. I absolutely admire Tom Brady. I love watching him play. I love playing against him. I think because of who he is and how he's went about his business, he brings the best out of us because we want to get that to him. And what we did to him in that Super Bowl, for the fact of the matter, we hit him some times where it was like he's not getting up, and he just got up. He might have cussed his O-line out, but to be able to stay in that game and do it, and he threw a ball in the fourth quarter to Randy Moss. The ball traveled like 75 yards or something like that, and that was right after Jay Alford had literally broke him in half. And I got the utmost respect for him. I think obviously he's one of the best to ever do it. But more than that, man, he is that whole tough label is warranted for sure.
I actually think Brady sucking it up, playing through injuries, not complaining, and just getting on with the game actually hinders his reputation for being a very tough player, at least in the eyes of pundits and viewers out there. Because when he was at the Pats, he never said anything about how bad his injuries were. In fact, he actually plays it down and just says it's part of the game and changes the topic straight away. The thing that really annoys me is when Belichick or other coaches play down the injury. I get it if it's gamesmanship and you don't want to show your hand to the other side about how badly injured Brady is, but once the season is over, I think it should be made known how bad the injury was, because players do deserve that respect. They deserve all the credit for pushing through and playing hurt. So when I heard Belichick say what he said about Brady's hand injury, it really made me upset. I hardly ever agree with Shannon when it comes to Brady, but he's on point here, and Skip, as always, hits it right on the head.
Think about what he went through for all those years in New England under the thumb of Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Remember what happened the week before the AFC Championship game at home against Jacksonville, which led to the Philly debacle in the Super Bowl. But remember what happened that week on, I think it was a Wednesday practice.
Right.
I think it was Burkhead somehow reached for, that's what they report. I don't know what the truth is. You had trouble. You had issues with the truth of this, and you could be right about it. But somehow, some way, Brady tore open the palm of his throwing hand 5 days, 4 days really, before the AFC title game at home against what was called Saxonville, one of the hottest defenses in the league at that point, especially rushing the quarterback. And according to Brady, it required 12 stitches in the palm of his throwing hand. And obviously the stitches alone would make it a little awkward and a little dicey trying to hold on and spin the football, especially in cold weather. So I thought it was pretty great that he sucked it up, as he's often done with other injuries, and just said, hell with it, I'm going to do this with the stitches in my hand. And there was all kinds of what was written in several books about what were they going to do. Were they going to cover the stitches? And at the end, minutes before kickoff, he took off the glove and just said, I'm just going to go with this. Okay, so he goes out. They're behind 20-10 early in the fourth quarter at home to Jacksonville. And Tom Brady proceeds to throw for 138 yards in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and they roar all the way back and win the game 24-20. And in the postgame, when his coach, Bill Belichick, was asked about Brady sucking it up and playing with the wounded right hand, Bill Belichick's response was, well, it wasn't exactly open heart surgery.
Did anything have to change game plan-wise because of Brady's hand?
Not that I'm aware of, Bob.
Can you just speak to the resourcefulness of Tom dealing with something like that midweek and then coming out and playing a huge game like that?
I mean, look, Tom did a great job, and he's a tough guy. We all know that, all right? But I mean, I'm not talking about open heart surgery here.
Okay. Well, it wasn't open heart surgery, but it was a pretty big deal, at least in my point of view.
For a quarterback,
I would say it's a pretty big deal. It's not open heart surgery, but for a quarterback, it's nearly the equivalent of. So my point is, I think that stung Brady to his core.
Of course.
I think it angered him. I think it just made him sick that coach wouldn't give him the slightest bit of credit for sucking it up and playing, and not only playing, but starring in the fourth quarter and saving another day in Foxborough. Right?
Skip, can I speak to you from an athlete's perspective?
Yeah.
What we get really upset about is when someone tries to minimize the extent of our injury. It's easy to say because it's not your hand that's opened up. It's not you that's going to have to, with an open hand, go throw a football. But, Skip, I tried to tell you for the past 5 years, I said, Brady is more human than you think. He might not, I said, but he's seething underneath. He hears what his coach is saying about him. He's minimizing him. Even after everything he's accomplished, he minimizes him at every turn. I said, he might not ever say it, but trust me, he's seething underneath because he's human. You didn't want to believe me at the time that I was saying it, and once he got out of there, you listen to that Brady talk. He talks in code, but he makes it abundantly clear. I'm very happy. I appreciate everything that I was able to accomplish. I appreciate what Coach Belichick did for me. But as I got older and I'm in a different environment now, I realized we probably could have won just as much with not his iron fist on every single thing.
Yep.
Without him talking down in a condescending manner to every single one, every single person, player on that team.
I so agree. I hear you. And I remind you that 2 weeks later, in a Super Bowl game in Minneapolis, Tom Brady threw for an all-time playoff record, not just a Super Bowl, a playoff record, 505 yards, and scored 33 points. His offense scored 33.
Correct.
And Belichick's defense gave up 41, in part because mysteriously, and never to be explained, at least yet, Malcolm Butler was doghoused for the whole game. The defensive player who had played the most snaps during the regular season on defense didn't get to play a single defensive snap in a Super Bowl game for no reason that we are aware of. And Brady was obviously livid and furious after that.
I mean, how would you feel if you just had your thumb almost ripped from your hand, the ligaments almost torn from the bone, but you still go out there and play within a few days after surgery in the blistering cold, and your head coach goes out and says it was nothing? I would be pretty cut. You sacrifice that much and you go to that extent for your team, for your coaches, for the fans, and then the head coach goes and behaves in such an ungrateful manner. I mean, it could be gamesmanship because they still had the Super Bowl game to play and Bill didn't want to give away anything, but he should have said something a month after the Super Bowl was over. At least praise Brady for what he did. Instead, Tom was forced to reveal the extent of his injury in the Tom vs. Time docuseries. This is the end of part 2 of Tom Brady's toughness. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll post part 3 tomorrow. Please like and subscribe and have a lovely day.